Good afternoon and happy Thursday, guys. It's almost the weekend, so kick back, relax, and let's get rolling with this week's deep dive episode. Last week, we talked about the massive improvements in the 2020 CLA for Mercedes. And this week, I wanted to follow it up with a look at an all-new model for Mercedes, the GLB, which is an interesting mix as it starts at a premium SUV price tag, but carries the obviously luxury brand name of Mercedes. Is that combination too good to be true? Obviously, the GLB is not a sedan, not like the CLA, but rather a small SUV. And this is important because the SUV market is much more saturated, especially here in the US. So we must be a bit more critical as we evaluate this GLB. First things first, the GLB slots in between, get this, the GLA and the GLC. I know it's confusing. Mercedes, you really should work on your naming scheme. In size, it's a few inches smaller than the GLC, but has the same powertrain as the A-Series. The shape is distinctly more SUV-like than some of the other offerings in Mercedes lineup, as well as it looks to widen the customer base by having a more traditional SUV shape. Also attracting a wider base is the price tag. At a starting price of right around $38,000, as I alluded to in the intro, this price is distinctly premium. That is to say, it's a tier below luxury pricing. As we all know, Mercedes is a proud luxury brand, so what happens when a luxury brand makes a premium vehicle? Well, in the case of the CLA, it didn't work out too great in the first generation, as the CLA ended up feeling like a discount Benz. We saw last week that Mercedes worked to rectify this situation in the second generation of the CLA, but what fate lies ahead for the new GLB? Let's take a closer look, and I'd love to have you guys tell me if you think it's a premium or a luxury small SUV. Looking closer at the exterior, this is still clearly a Mercedes, with the iconic front grille and the three-pointed star. The headlights are accented with classy daytime running lights, however, they are not breathtaking like some of the offerings from Audi, for example. The side profile of the GLB is rather boring, at least to my personal preferences, but it does look pretty sharp, with a bit more attitude when optioned with the black AMG-styled wheels. My biggest gripe with the exterior is that the always cheap-looking, flat black plastic trim that adorns the entire perimeter of the vehicle. It's not so bad on darker colors, but just look at how much it stands out on a light color like this. Now, to be clear, this is nothing unique. Many SUVs do this, however, I really don't enjoy seeing it on a luxury brand. Around back, the taillights are again nice, but not awe-inspiring. The liftgate is a good size and powered, making it a well-functioned SUV at least. Diving inside the vehicle, the GLB does thankfully come with the new style interior with the dual screens. While this would be expected of any 2020 model, let's not forget the disappointing interior of the original first generation CLA. I'm just glad to see that that mistake was not made twice. These dual 10.3-inch displays are bright and clear, which is something we can surprisingly not take for granted in this price range. And the graphics are nice and elegant. I'd argue that there's honestly an overwhelming amount of information available in these systems, which is great once you learn how to use it all, but it also means that this interior has a pretty steep learning curve, which is definitely steeper than most in the competition. And frankly, this could turn away some buyers. The only disappointing piece on the inside for me really is the surprising amount of plastic and hard touch materials. This makes it feel cheaper than it looks, if that makes sense, but again, it's something that is often found on premium SUVs, but not so common on luxury SUVs. I think you're getting my point here. The interior can be nicely dressed up with dual tone designs, and the dash is broken up with some classy looking piano black trim. The gear selector is nice looking, but plastic. Same with the air vents and window switches. Overall, the size of the interior feels pretty spacious given the overall dimensions of the vehicle, and like any Mercedes, it can be decked out with loads of tech, upgraded surround sound, heated and cooled seats, and a variety of colors. As we keep moving, the final category we will look at today is the mechanical and performance characteristics of the new GLB. Like I mentioned, the powertrain is shared from the A-Class, meaning that we see a 221 horsepower turbocharged inline-4 power in this SUV. Those numbers are not exactly impressive, but the engine is certainly adequate. The sound, which is artificially aided on the interior, is actually quite pleasant, especially considering it's only a 4-cylinder engine. There's also a bit of turbo whistle that can be audible, especially with the windows down, which is kind of a nice treat. This engine powers the front wheels as standard and can be optioned with 4MATIC, which is Mercedes branding for all-wheel drive. Note that this is a front-wheel drive based system, however, and it will not offer the same sort of sporty driving characteristic like some of the other models in Mercedes lineup would. However, with 221 horsepower, this is perfectly adequate, I suppose. Interestingly, the 8-speed automatic transmission in this vehicle is actually Mercedes derived. It's a dual clutch system, not a ZF-based 8-speed transmission of a more traditional style like you'd expect when you read an 8-speed automatic transmission on any other spec sheet. Being that it is a dual clutch offering, this is really a great transmission for normal cruising speeds and is really able to get the most out of this 4-cylinder engine by having plenty of gears to keep it in the ideal power band. However, like any other dual clutch, it can be a bit clunky and lurchy in low speed maneuvering, especially in parking lots, for example, pulling in and backing out of parking spaces. This may be a point of concern for some people who are looking for a nice daily driver or an easy grocery getter, mall traveler, something of that sort for the family. Alright, so that was a lot of information I just threw at you guys in a relatively short period of time. So let's take a step back and go through each of the categories, and I'll let you know my verdict on whether it is a premium or a luxury vehicle for each. And your job is to let me know in the comments down below whether or not you agree. Exterior. I have to rule this one a luxury exterior. I know I complained about the flat black trim around the exterior, and while overall it doesn't strike me as amazing, the grille and the wonderful 3-pointed star emblem that adorns the front and back make it clear to just about anyone on the road that this is indeed a Mercedes you're driving, and for that reason alone I consider it a luxury exterior. The interior is a mixed bag, and that alone is why it is very much premium. A luxury interior is only allowed to cut so many corners for cost, and the GLB simply cuts too many. It is not a bad interior by any means, but it is not the interior of a proper luxury vehicle. Finally, performance is a tough one because it can really vary a lot depending on what brand or segment you're looking at. So I guess my approach for this is to say that the engine in the GLB is adequate. At no point should it feel underpowered. There's plenty of horsepower behind there to get up to speed or pull off passing maneuvers. So for that reason alone, I consider it adequate for either category, but I wouldn't say the performance necessarily drives it to either category. So in my opinion, given the mixed results of my summary, I'd consider the GLB to be very much a premium small SUV, which is totally fine because it's a competitive offering in this segment, even at its price point. But thinking the bigger picture here, how does the introduction of premium models dilute the image of a luxury brand? Should Mercedes be more careful introducing models like this? Let me know down in the comments what you think about this concept. Thanks for tuning in, guys. This was Deep Dive. Tune in again on Tuesday for another quick look episode. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure you give it a like and get subscribed for future deep dive and quick look episodes on each Tuesday and Thursday. Have a great weekend. I'll see you all on Tuesday.